Hi creative friends. I got another comment asking me to compare the large brush tip on the Pentel Brush Pen Twin and the Tombow Dual Brush Pens. Now I've had these Tombow Dual Brush Pens for quite a long time, so it's not like I'm comparing a completely brand new product to another brand new product, but they haven't been that used. I mean, look at this one, it's kind of dusty. But I grabbed 5 random colors for each set, and let's just see how they feel. I'm using the Rhodia Dab pad. This is really great for, it's just like really smooth. It's really great for markers, sketching, you know, just almost anything. Story time. So at the start of my creative journey, I started learning how to bullet journal. And then as I was bullet journaling, I discovered calligraphy, and I noticed that a lot of people were using these brush pens to do their calligraphy and lettering, and so naturally I grabbed these too. But I also grabbed them because people were using these for watercolor effects. So the large brush tip is really great, like you can just, you know, scribble on some plastic and then pick it up with a paintbrush. So I thought these were so neat. Now since then, I obviously haven't used these as much for watercolors since I have my own paint set. And I honestly don't use the brush tip as much as I use the bullet tip because the brush tip is quite large and it's kind of impractical to use this in my everyday writing, because with a large brush tip like this, you have to write like very large too. Another thing that I noticed about the dual brush pens is that for some of the pens, the brush tip was just fraying really easily. And obviously I wasn't a fan of that. So I just noticed that there was a lot of, just fraying happening. It seemed really inconsistent in terms of the quality, the brush tip quality. Now, maybe things have changed since I first got these, which was way back in, I don't know, 2016, 2017-ish. So hopefully things have improved, but yeah, so I just wanted to show you. I was going to just start with this color and just do some random mark making and just see what they look like. Okay, so far this color is okay. So if I try to write really small, it's just like really hard. But see, do you see how it's like fraying right there? Yeah, so maybe you see the little A, the little tail on this A. It's just fraying a little bit, so it's not my favorite. And again, it's kind of inconsistent, you know? But trying to write this small is really impractical, so you kind of have to write pretty large to get to just feel kind of comfortable. Yeah, but other than that, like this is completely fine. So that was the Tombow Dual Brush Pen. So now let's compare the Pentel Pen Twin, but the large brush tip. If we were to look at just the brush tips, we can see that Tombow is definitely larger than the Pentel, and that could affect the size of it. It may also affect, you know, the brush tip quality. I'm not sure. So let's check it out. Do you hear how squeaky it is? I don't know if you can hear that squeakiness, but it's very, very squeaky. And again, I'm not a huge fan of that. All right, so right off the bat, I actually like that this brush tip is just a little bit smaller than the Tombow. These small letters were not too hard to write, but now writing huge is a little bit of a hassle. But again, you don't have to write this huge. You know, I only did it for this, for the Tombow, because I kind of had to. But because this brush tip is more of like a medium length brush tip, like it's not that bad. So far, I kind of, let me just label this. So Tombow Dual, and I'm just going to say Pentel Twin. I think my biggest issue when it comes to large brush tips is just that it's just not that comfortable to write with. Like, because the brush tips are larger, the bounce back on the brush tip is a lot slower. Even these upstrokes that I did was just really difficult. Like, yeah, I just have trouble with it. All right, let's test another color. Again, I'm just testing different colors because, like I said, sometimes the brush tips quality sometimes differs from color to color. Okay, this one's kind of squeaky too. But you can see that even with the lightest of pressures, these lines with just the tip of the brush is still pretty thick compared to the Pentel. It's not super thick, you know. Yeah, do you see just how a little bit of fraying there? And again, that might just be because these markers are older. So, you know, if I had a fresh set, maybe I wouldn't have that issue. Yeah, I feel like when I do brush calligraphy with a large brush tip, before I do the upstroke, I almost have to like stop and then turn my brush around and then do the upstroke. I don't know if I like that, you know, because that just adds another step. Okay, let's see the Pentel in action. Again, so squeaky. These thin lines are almost the same width as the Tombow. I do feel like the tip bends less. So the tip is definitely stiffer compared to the Tombow Dual. And that's probably because it's a smaller brush tip. And so I think that's definitely an advantage. Yeah, so I don't like how this upstroke is still so thick. So I almost have to like, yeah, do it really slowly. Or kind of stop and then adjust my position like I said. Okay, 2 colors in, I'm definitely preferring the Pentel because I like that the brush tip is smaller. I like that I have a little bit more control. I like that even when I was doing these horizontal lines with just very little pressure, I didn't feel like the tip was bending as much. All right, so there's that one. Let's do the next color. Ooh, this color is juicy. This color is nice. Yeah, when I'm doing these horizontal lines with a Tombow, again, even with the lightest of pressures, I can feel the brush tip bending. And so when you have such a soft, flexible tip like this, you're bound to get errors in your writing. If you don't mind that, you know, if you don't mind having slightly thicker upstrokes, or if you don't mind streakiness in your strokes, then by all means, you know, go for the Tombow Dual Brush Pens. If you also don't own watercolors and want to use these for watercolor effects, this is a great option. All right, here is the Pentel in orange. Yeah, I don't know if you can tell like on the screen that I do have more control with this one. So there's the orange. All right, 2 more colors to go. Let's do the green next. Oh, this one's kind of interesting. I feel like I had less flexibility in this one. And this is what I mean. Like some colors will just, yeah, behave a little bit differently. So I can't answer all those questions for you. You know, I can't possibly buy every single color. Maybe there's someone out there who has. Yeah, just testing 5 different colors. This is what's happening. Here's the green Pentel. Ooh, this one is a lot more bendy. I don't know, the very, very tip of it, again, hardly any pressure and it was already bending. So even with yeah, like this one, I'm having a lot of trouble getting the thin upstroke. Oof. So I don't know if it's an issue or, you know, issue with the manufacturer or, yeah, I have no idea. But I'm definitely struggling to make thin upstrokes with this particular color. Wow, that was really hard. All right, and there's the green. Okay, last but not least, black. Probably the most commonly used color. Let's check it out. Yeah, very good color and stiffness on this one. Look how thin those are. Those are real nice. Yeah, for some reason, this definitely has the least amount of flex in the brush tip. And I don't know if it's, maybe I've used this before. I don't know. Again, I haven't really touched my Tombow Dual Brush Pens in a long time. But yeah, look at that. It was a little difficult, but not too impossible. Yeah, I don't feel like I'm trying so hard to maintain these thin upstrokes. That was not too bad. The black color was definitely the stiffest out of all the colors so far. Let's see how the Pentel does in black. Super juicy. In terms of, oh, you know what? I didn't even talk about this. In terms of the width of the brush strokes, like this is pretty comparable. Like even though the Pentel is a little bit shorter than the Tombow, the width of the brush strokes, the downstrokes, are pretty comparable. All right, yeah, I'm still able to get pretty thin lines. That's good. Let's see how it writes. Okay. Compared to the Tombow, this brush tip has a little bit more flex to it. So I'm having a little bit of difficulty getting the really thin upstrokes. Ah. It's a little bit more flex, but it's not as bad as the green color. The green color definitely had the most flex for some reason. All right, guys, so what do you think? Here is the black. There's the green, orange, purple, and sky blue. All right, so my honest opinion on these brush pens is that they're both, you know, they're both great. Like they're both from really reputable companies. The Tombows are basically known for their dual brush pens. Like when people say Tombow, they automatically assume the dual brush pen. So they have a reputation. Same thing with Pentel. Their original felt tip sign pens are, you know, just so iconic. So their brush tips are no exception. They're just as iconic. So both pens really have their own merits. Like I said, looking at the brush tips, the Tombow is definitely larger than the Pentel. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It just means that you might have to write bigger with the Tombow than you do with the Pentel. As I said before, that depending on the color that you use, the felt tips, the brush tips might behave a little bit differently, you know? So like I said, like with the orange, I felt like both were pretty stiff, but then with the green, like look how much difficulty I had with the Pentel. like those upstrokes are not very thin. And then even comparing the horizontal lines, I was able to get a much thinner line with the Tombow Dual versus the Pentel. The great news is that you can use both brush pens for watercolor effects too, because they're both water-based. In terms of downstroke thickness, they're pretty comparable too. So yeah, so that's a quick comparison on these two pens and their larger brush tips. I hope it was helpful to just kind of see it demonstrated and then just to see the comparison. If you want to do further comparisons, obviously the Tombow Dual Brush Pen comes in, I don't know, like over 100 colors, I think. And the Pentel Brush Twin Pens, they only have, I think my set was like a set of 30 colors. So there is a little bit of limitation there. In terms of pricing, the Pentel set of 30 on Amazon as of today, it's $28.99. So it's slightly less than $1 per brush pen. And then if you look at Tombow, it really depends on, you know, the set that you get, the colors that you get, and how many you get in a set, you know, so all of that. But the Tombows are usually a lot more expensive. So I'm looking at the Tombow brush pen set of 10, which is just the primary colors. And you get, yeah, and then you get 10 of them. It is $36. So that means that each brush pen is about $3.60. So that could be, you know, that could be potentially what makes your decision, looking at the price, comparing the prices. I'm not here to like convince you to buy one or the other. I just wanted to kind of show you, you know, the comparisons between the two, a lot of the pros and maybe a few of the cons of both of the brushes. But in the end, they're both very high quality, very pigmented pens. So you really can't go wrong. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, like this video, and let me know in the comments what else you want to see from me. Thanks and have a great day. Bye.